In this video, we'll look into few settings in Affinity related to the user interface. So first of all, let's start by creating a new document. I'll go with A4 size and click on create new document. Now you can see the UI of Affinity that it is displaying. Now in order to access the settings of the UI, I will go on to Affinity and click on Affinity and then click on settings here. Now we can see different settings here related to the Affinity, and on the left hand side we can see user interface category, which is the settings that we are trying to access in this video. So let's click on user interface, which is already being clicked here, and for user interface we can see different levels of settings that Affinity has provided. Now we can tweak every settings as per our criteria or as per our need or comfort. And the first settings we have is our background gray level. So the background gray level simply means how much amount of gray level that we need or require. And the background gray level consists of the portion in our UI, which are the portion beside the Canva and other panels. So if I change the level of the background gray level here, you can see that the background of the canvas or artboard is suddenly changing. And if I completely shift it to the right, then you can see the background completely becomes white. And if I shift it to the left, then you can see that the background completely becomes black. However, I mostly prefer to use in a neutral gray, so I leave it as it is. On the next setting we have is artboard background gray level. So if we tweak this, you can see that nothing happens. However, I think that this setting and this setting is somewhat similar because both artboard background gray level and background gray level kinds of give the same meaning. And the next setting that we have is the text contrast settings. So what this basically means is how much contrast do you want on the text of the UI. In here, we have the text contrast settings all the way to the right, which is very high. So this is the reason why you can see very much contrast of the text in the UI in relation to its background. So if we decrease the text contrast all the way to the left, you can see now the text contrast has changed, and the text contrast with the relation to its background is very minimum, and it is likely a little bit saturated or highly saturated towards its background. So it is the text are not so visible, so I'm going to increase it a bit, somewhat here. Okay, so this is fine as per my preference. And the next setting we have is UI brightness. For the UI brightness, this refers to the overall brightness of the user interface of or in Affinity. So if I turn this slider all the way to the right, you can see now that the entire brightness levels of the UI becomes a bit bright. And if I just shift it all the way to the left, then you can see now that the brightness levels of the entire UI becomes very dark. And we can also see that there is a lot of contrast or high contrast in relation to different elements like tools and text and its background. So I'm going to increase the UI brightness a little bit up. Okay, so this is fine. And the next setting we have is UI contrast. So in the case of UI contrast, if I click on high, then the Affinity will automatically make the contrast of different elements like text and tools in relation to its background very much high. So I'm going to click on default for now, since default is very comfortable to work on. And the next settings that we have is UI font settings, and we can choose either the default settings or the large settings, where if we click on the large settings, we can clearly see that now the fonts are very large here. And if we click on the default settings, we can see that the fonts are very much smaller now. And the next setting that we have is tooltip delay. So tooltip delay basically means when we hover over any tools, or let's say any panels in the UI, then we often get a tooltip which consists of different information of how you can use that tool. So I think we can control the tooltip delay by using this particular setting. However, we need to control how much time span will it take in order to show that particular tooltip. So the next setting that we have is the decimal places for unit types. Here, this settings simply is the decimal settings that we can place for different units that we use, like pixel, points, picas, and more. And the next settings are the few other random settings that you can see here, like automatically lock background layer when import. I think when we import an assets in Affinity, then it will automatically lock that the particular background in the layers panel related to that asset. And the next random settings here are like default to pixel view for images. That is, if we select one image or place any image on Affinity, then it will by default change its view mode to pixel view instead of the vector view. And it has other settings as well, like show lines in points, show text in points, and more, which we'll be discussing these other settings in our future videos. So I think today this video helps you on how we can manage with the user interface settings in order to make the user interface much more comfortable and much more helpful for our working scenario. So thanks for watching this video, and please don't forget to like the video if you like the video, and please don't forget to subscribe the video in order to get new information or content on Affinity when I post new video or information in the future. So once again, thank you for watching the video. See you on the next video.